Hi, thanks for tuning in. This is the ASX and Sectors weekly chart analysis for the week ending 9th of January 2026. The first chart is the S&P ASX 200 index. This is the parent index of the Australian Stock Exchange, the XJO. And this week, price traded roughly sideways, very slightly lower for the week. Trading in consolidation mode following this up bar. You can see the last 2 weeks, the market has traded in consolidation mode, right up high in the range, which is generally quite strong. You've got the highs of the range coming through here, and the lows of the range through here. Price has found some support more recently, spent some time in consolidation mode, and after pushing higher 3 weeks ago, the market's traded in consolidation mode since then, as it encounters a little bit of supply from the left here, and it appears to be preparing for a push higher and back right up into this range. This market's been held back a little by the weakness in the financial sector, which you'll see as we move along a little. This is the mid-cap sector. It's acting slightly stronger than the parent index at the moment. We've got the highs of the range up here and the lows of the range through here. This is where the parent index broke down. This market held on quite strongly through here. Spent some time in consolidation mode, and more recently has pushed up, and it's closed adjacent to this bar's high this week, and it's also looking like it would like to move up and into this range in here, and is acting slightly stronger than the parent index at this point in time. This is a small ordinary sector. It pushed higher this week, as you can see. Highs of the range through here. You can see the price broke down a couple of times. This is always a little more volatile, this sector. Support was found here. Price spent 3 weeks in consolidation mode before pushing higher. Last week it was consolidating again and pushed higher again this week. And more importantly, it's moved just slightly above the previous highs of the range. This is not necessarily a breakout at this point, certainly not a confirmed breakout. This is an attempt to break out, and it's quite strong. Volume almost increased to average this week, and this is still what is really considered the holiday period. You generally don't find volumes normalising until at least the second week in January. So this was a pretty good move and one worth noting. This is the ASX financial sector, easily the largest sector in the Australian Stock Exchange by some way. And there's some weakness in this market at the moment, and that's what's causing the softness in the parent index. Highs of the range through here, lows of the range through here. Here was the breakdown. There's been a period of consolidation across here, an attempt to push up to the highs of the range, and last week price pulled back. It remains within the range. This is the range here. It remains within the range pretty comfortably, but you would have expected this market to make an attempt to push higher here, and it didn't do so. It's pulled back. There's been some supply drawn out. That's forced the market to move back. It's going to attempt to absorb that supply, probably in here over the next little period. So this bears watching for sure. A break below this level would certainly be concerning. I expect the market will gather itself up and consolidate within the range. We'll just need to keep following that one for sure, because if this market does begin to break down, it'll drag a lot of the other sectors down along with it. This is the metals and mining subsector, showing the mining sector effectively. Price has moved above what was the old highs of the range through here. You can see the market's moving up quite nicely at the moment, with 1 week of a push higher and then a week of consolidation in response. And this week you've had the push higher. I do note the market closed a little off the highs for the week. So there was a little supply drawn out through here. Volume was almost average, quite high for this time of year. So I expect the market will probably come back next week and test for supply back to this level or thereabouts before there's any serious attempt to push higher in response. The ASX gold sector, it moved higher this week, but not convincingly so. You can see that the market moved higher within the range of the previous down bar and closed mid-bar. This was more an absorption bar, and the fact that it traded above the previous close for pretty much the whole week suggests there is a positive element in this market, no doubt. But this was an absorption bar. This wasn't really an attempt to push higher. This was a market absorbing supply as it was drawn out. And I expect the market will attempt to push higher in response. Highs of the range come through here. I expect they may be challenged next week. The ASX energy sector, it was fractionally lower this week. The last 3 weeks trading have all been within this down bars range. You can see the market has had a little trouble moving above that breakdown line there. It's only a minor breakdown line that is within the range. You've got the highs of the range up here. Here's where the market initially broke down. There was a reluctance to move lower here. That's generally showing you that there is some support coming in, and that was confirmed on this up bar here, where the market recovered most of that weakness all in one go. Price wasn't able to move above that breakdown line at this point. The price has pulled back in response. More recently, following this down bar, you've had 2 weeks of consolidation, and then this week was a bar of uncertainty where there was an attempt to move higher which failed. There was an attempt to move lower where support came in. You've had an equilibrium found right at the important level. We'll just have to watch this market for the response. I expect there may be an attempt to push higher, but you may get a test for supply prior to that. So you may get a bar that initially moves down and recovers and then attempts to move higher in response. So we'll just watch this one and see how the market plays it. This is the healthcare sector. This market's been very inconsistent more recently and difficult. It's broken down a number of times. But I do note that this week the market had the opportunity to break down again as it traded below the previous low. It didn't break down. Instead, buying support came in and it closed back above this level. So there's a minor positive sentiment emerged there. It's certainly not ready to go yet, but just watch this market. We've seen these two bars in here trading inside this down bars range, which did appear to be some form of absorption. We've seen it before though in here and it failed. And just watch the trading dynamics and see if we get further hints that there's buying support coming in like we have this week. This is the ASX industrial sector. It continues to track sideways since the weakness emerged previously, back here. Highs of the range through here. It's quite a wide range. Lows of the range through here. The market's failed to reach the highs of the range on the last push higher, which is always a bit of an issue. The market's not been able to reach the highs more recently either. We've got a minor low in here before the lows of the range. So this market's looking weaker than stronger at this point in time. You can see that there is an attempt to consolidate within the range of this up bar sort of in here. All the trading's been inside that bar since it developed. So we'll just see how the market plays this. A little bit of uncertainty here. There's certainly weakness in the market, but it may be attempting to absorb that weakness, which would be a positive for the market in the longer run. This is the consumer staples sector, and it had the opportunity to break down this week, but it didn't do so. It recovered and closed as an up bar. We've got the highs of the range through here. The range above that comes through there. You can see the market's been trading sideways in this range for some time now. Whenever the lows are threatened, buying support has emerged more recently. But whenever the highs are exceeded, supply is drawn out. That keeps this market moving sideways at this point in time. I don't expect anything different will happen in the short term. I do expect in response to this bar, you'll see at least early in the week, a test for supply and a shakeout and a test for supply. We'll often see the market move higher in response, or at least attempt to do so. So we'll watch for that over the next week or so. This is consumer discretionary. The lows of the range were here. They've since been re-established to here. You've seen the market break down previously and show an inability to recover. Price pushed down. There was a reluctance to move lower through here, and then we've seen the market trade roughly sideways since then. It's not looking particularly strong, but the weakness has subsided to some extent at this point in time. And you can see there was the opportunity to break down again here, and the market didn't break down. Instead, it saw buying support emerge, and it recovered back above the lows of the range. So this is another market that we're watching at the moment to see just how much strength does emerge. At this point, the lows of the range are being defended. That's always a good starting point. This is the ASX property sector. It traded lower this week. It's trying to hold on to the range of this up bar and trade in consolidation mode. It's only just barely holding on like that. You've got the highs of the range through here, lows of the range, price breakdown, attempt to consolidate through here. Price pushed up 3 weeks ago, and since then the market's been trading in consolidation mode within the range of that up bar. It's looking a little bit vulnerable here, trading right at the lows of that range. It does have the overall lows where you would expect some further support to emerge from if required. It does, however, show some weakness if it can't hold on to the lows of this up bar. So we'll just watch this, another market to watch, where we've seen some potential strength beginning to emerge, but the last 2 weeks at least have suggested there is some weakness in this market still. You might find the market does move back into this area to consolidate further. Just back to the parent index quickly before we wrap up. Pretty clear. The highs of the range, the lows of the range. This is where the market broke down. We saw a reversal in here and a period of consolidation. And the market has pushed up and into this range here, just attempting to break out. And we've seen 2 weeks of consolidation in response. This is absorption taking place. If it's successful, you'll see the market push higher and right into the middle of this range. I don't expect it'll push straight up to the highs of the range immediately. But if the supply continues to be drawn out, you may see the market move back into this area to consolidate further. So at the moment, the market's attempting to absorb the supply being drawn out. It's not necessarily successful yet. We'll just wait and see which side is holding the upper hand, the buyers or the sellers. Okay, thanks for your time. Back again next week. See ya.